All right, here it is, 2024. This is week number one of the 2024 season. The countdown to February 9th, 2025 at the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans starts now. And welcome to Jonesing for Football. Bill Jones here in Dallas. Young Cody Winstead in the Jonesing for Football studios in Philadelphia with his Emmy Award over his right shoulder, his Super Bowl MVP, three-time Super Bowl MVP award above his left shoulder. That would be the Patrick Mahomes bobblehead. Congratulations, young Cody. You are the Super Bowl champion.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. And you are right. The first episode after the Super Bowl is episode 1, and this is going to be season 5 of Jonesing for Football. So episode 1, season 5 for our podcast.
What you're saying is the club picked up our 5th-year option. Is that what you're saying?
We're going to get an extension soon. We're working on an extension. We need that.
We're about to get our second contract, but of course, we were first-round draft picks some 4 years ago, and the club picked up our 5th-year option for some reason, and here we are entering season number 5, a contract year for us, young Cody.
Hey, we do it right, Bill Jones. We do it big, we do it right, and we deserve that extension. Episode 115 for those of you listening overall for Jonesing for Football. But this is the time that we actually shine, Bill Jones. We enjoy during the season and predicting games and the Super Bowl and all that. But it is draft season, baby, and that's why this podcast was developed. And look at there it is. There it is, the living legend of the Big Green NFL Draft Scouting Notebook. Wow, I can't believe you got it ready to go, Bill Jones.
I do. I've had it ready to go. I'm just trying to find time to put something inside that Big Green NFL Draft Scouting Notebook, and that commences for me. I know it did for you with the All-Star games, the Senior Bowl, the East-West Shrine Bowl, which was held right here at the Star in Frisco. But for me, it really starts with the Combine. I've got to get those measurables before I dig in because you have more time on your hands, apparently, than I do. In fact, next week, I'm going to baseball spring training in Arizona with the world champion Texas Rangers. And then I start diving into how the Dallas Cowboys can become the world champion Dallas Cowboys in 2025, February 9th, 2025 at that.
I'll say this. It is nice to have all the official Combine stuff that is helpful. But this is the time to break down the tape, Bill Jones. You can watch the ins and outs. I'm on the quarterbacks right now. I did Caleb Williams last week. I did Drake May last week. Jaden Daniels is next on my to-do list, so I'll knock him out. Maybe a little J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix. It's going to be a fun week for me.
And so as just to look ahead, a preview of the Combine, which is fast approaching here in 10 days or so, you'll be breaking down the top quarterback, the quote-unquote top quarterback in this draft on the next episode of Jonesing for Football after I get back from spring training in Arizona. But let's dive into the Super Bowl. I need some preliminary thoughts from you on what happened as when the season began. I said the San Francisco 49ers were going to win the Super Bowl. My one question about the team was the quarterback and whether that quarterback, Brock Purdy, could lead this team to a Super Bowl. He did. So I stuck with my guns and I picked the Niners to win the game, although I fully enjoy the fact that Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City wound up winning it.
Yep, I'm with you. I went with Kansas City. I just loved Mahomes. I'll give you my big takeaway, Bill Jones, and then I'll kind of let you respond. And I have a feeling we're going to kind of be on the same page on this. But I picked Kansas City, and I said it last week on this pod, because I had a feeling the game was going to come down to the wire, and it would be Patrick Mahomes versus Brock Purdy, both against top 3 scoring defenses. And that's exactly what happened. Purdy, I thought he played pretty well, looked like a good quarterback. But the difference was Mahomes. He was special and carried his team to the victory. The stat that proved that was pretty obvious. It was third downs, Bill Jones. Kansas City was 9 of 19. San Francisco was just 3 of 12. and we saw Mahomes did whatever was necessary to win the game. 333 yards passing, and he had a team high 66 rushing yards as well, which was the second most he's ever had in an NFL game. So just got it done. Whatever needed to be done, Mahomes was going to make it happen. 8 for 8 on that final drive. Just spectacular. And obviously that led to another Lombardi.
Yeah, as the game was winding down there in the fourth quarter, and how great was that fourth quarter and on into overtime?
Terrific.
The drama. I just felt all along that don't leave the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands at the end. He's going to figure out a way to win this thing, even though he didn't have a lot of success. I think you give a lot of credit to San Francisco. I was listening to the talking heads throughout the week on ESPN, and they had it all figured out how Mahomes was going to dissect this San Francisco defense, that there's no way that they'd have an answer for all Mahomes did. Well, they had an answer for about 4 quarters of that game on into the final drive of the game.
Especially with Dre Greenlaw on the field.
Yeah.
I think you could tell when he got hurt. I'm not sure Greenlaw makes that big of a difference, but they were not getting anything with Greenlaw on the field. And then that just incredible Achilles injury coming onto the field. That was amazing. But from that moment on, the Chiefs started figuring things out and Mahomes got comfortable, and that was bad news for San Fran.
You know what was most incredible about the Greenlaw injury coming off the sideline to go out on the field was that CBS had a camera that was right there to chronicle it, to show it. I mean, what are the odds? But when you have 165 cameras covering a game, I guess the odds are come down a little bit that you might have that camera in position to get that injury.
That's a good call, Bill Jones. I didn't even think about that. Like normally on an odd placed situation that you would never predict something would happen, it would be a really wide shot and he would be like in the corner, you'd catch him running on the field. They literally had a camera on him and Fred Warner as he was going onto the field. Like that shot would never be used. I guess maybe going to break, or you're teasing like, hey, the Niners defense is coming back onto the field, but you're right. That shot's never used.
Imagine this for a moment. Okay, you've got 165 cameras. How about this? The fact you even can find that shot in the commercial break.
True.
Looking at 106. Wait a second. Greenlaw's down on the field. Okay, do we have that shot somewhere? And someone is chiming, a camera operator say, hey, I got it. And then you got to go through 165 screens to figure out, oh, there it is. Let's take camera number 161 there. We got it.
Yeah, you're right. That's an EVS producer who's scanning through all those, and that's exactly what it is. That's an amazing play by them. That's a good call. Bill Jones, I would like to say on the Niners, I got one thing on San Fran about the game, and then we can get into like spinning it forward and what this means all for the league. Kyle Shanahan moved on from Jimmy G a few years ago after they made the Super Bowl. They lost the fourth quarter lead, and he realized he needed more from his quarterback. Well, the same thing happened on Sunday. 3 different times the Niners had the lead in the fourth quarter and overtime. Unfortunately, they couldn't, for the most part, get touchdowns. They had to rely on field goals. And Kyle Shanahan told you how he feels about Brock Purdy. In overtime, with the game on the line, he recommitted to Christian McCaffrey and the run game on their 13-play drive in OT that led to the field goal. They ran it 7 times, and they threw it to McCaffrey 2 other times. So 9 times in 13 plays, it either went to Christian McCaffrey running or throwing the ball, and Elijah Mitchell, he got a run down there as well. So he didn't fully trust Brock Purdy to make the big play in the end. And I'm not about to say that Brock Purdy isn't a good player, because he clearly is. But the question we all want to know, and we all have an opinion on this, and I want yours, is he a great player, and can he get there if he's not yet? He's only 24 years old in his second season, so plenty of time to learn and grow. But he should not be an MVP candidate, Bill Jones. I've been saying it the whole year that McCaffrey is the MVP candidate. Somehow, everyone was saying Brock Purdy might be, and then luckily in the end, McCaffrey got 3rd in MVP voting and Purdy got 4th. But we could easily be in the situation next year where the Niners are great again and their offense is rolling, and people are trying to convince you that Brock Purdy is the MVP. And we just can't believe that, Bill Jones. We got to remember this for next year.
Well, I think just the fact that Purdy was able to lead a very, very good team all the way to the Super Bowl and to the cusp of winning it. I mean, you pick up a blitz there at the end of the game, and you complete a pass and you score a touchdown, and the thing may have in overtime might have shaken out differently. That I don't think. I don't know if you're suggesting that Shanahan might move on from Brock Purdy already because he didn't win that game, but I think the jury's still out on what he's going to wind up eventually becoming. I look back while you're talking about him. I kind of look back at it's going to be interesting going forward. Purdy in his career, I look back at Russell Wilson when he was with the Seahawks a decade ago, and they relied on the run game so much and got to this point, win a Super Bowl, then right on the goal line of winning another Super Bowl. And then things changed in Russell Wilson's career. If you can even chart it by his stats, where he became more of a passing quarterback, and the team success was not as great going forward. And so I think if you do that with a Brock Purdy, okay, where now you don't have the same team around you, and you look back at Seattle, and the defense wasn't as strong going forward, the run game wasn't as strong, and Russell Wilson wasn't. I mean, statistically, he was probably better as a
Yes.
quarterback, but as a team, they weren't. And if you do the same thing with Purdy, I think the key on a quarterback like Purdy, or with any quarterback really, is to have the great team around you as well. And so he benefited definitely from that his first couple of years in the league. And now the 49ers are going to have the same issues that the Chiefs will have going forward, that other teams have had once they start having this kind of success. The salary cap keeps you from, keeping these players around. And so it's going to fall more on his shoulders to do more in games than what he has to do right now.
100%. And I'm not saying that they should move on from Purdy. The point is, next year is his third year. After that is his fourth year, and then his contract is up. So they're going to pay him at the end of next year for an extension, just so they can move the money around and lower his average annual value. The point is, next year is the year they need to win, because that'll be by far the lowest cap number he had. After that, it's going to go from probably 2 million as his cap hit next year to somewhere in the 20s or 30 million. And that's where they're going to be in trouble, because is Brock Purdy a $50 million a year quarterback? And that he's going to get paid in that range. And that's where the real question is for San Francisco. And then obviously, if you do that, and then you got to get rid of guys, and we know how that impacts the rest of the team. So that will be Kyle Shanahan's real decision.
And that is why it's from the look at this Super Bowl loss from the San Francisco perspective, it is so gut-wrenching for a team to get to this point. And Brock Purdy's window is open going forward, but from a salary cap standpoint, the window for this particular team to do what they can do is closing. And because of what we've just been talking about, and that makes it so difficult to take a loss like that when you get so close and yet you're so far away.
It's closing if you don't think Purdy is one of those force multipliers or someone who can carry a team. Now, if he is a Patrick Mahomes or a great quarterback, then like Joe Burrow said, the window's open as long as I'm in the league. And he's 100% right by that. But is Brock Purdy in that same class where he can carry an offense, or they can build an offense around him? See, I think that's where it's still yet to be seen.
What about Mahomes, where he is now? It's interesting, and kind of along the same lines of what Kansas City can do to keep this together. Mahomes, even though he has done more by winning more Super Bowls and has a better record. And, statistically, the game is different now than it was 30 years ago as far as stats are concerned. But he is where Troy Aikman was 30 years ago in his career. You think back to Troy Aikman, All right, Mahomes just completed his 7th season in the league. Aikman, after his 7th season in the league, had won back-to-back Super Bowls, had just won a 3rd Super Bowl in 4 years. Mahomes has won 3 Super Bowls in 5 years, okay? Aikman was 29 years old. Mahomes is 28 years old right now. And, okay, so what happened with the Cowboys after they won the championship in the 95 season? They make the playoffs the next year. I think they went 12-4, and then they didn't do anything in the playoffs, and it went downhill from there. Aikman didn't come close to sniffing a Super Bowl in the last half of his career, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now for Mahomes, obviously, he ranks right up there. You know, Brady was in that same spot early in his career. Okay. Brady was able with the Patriots to do it again, basically, in his career with 3 more Super Bowls. Now, for Mahomes to be the Tom Brady of this era, it's what he does from this point forward. But it's interesting. You look back basically 30 years ago, 29 years ago, Aikman was the Patrick Mahomes of that moment where we're talking about, okay, what can the Cowboys do? Well, that's when free agency hit, and the Cowboys got hit hard by free agency. Plus,
Good point,
they had
Bill
a
Jones.
change in coaches. The coaching situation was a little bit different back then as far as the Cowboys, because those coaches had all from the Jimmy Johnson era had moved on, and so it was a different staff basically than what you have with Andy Reid and the Chiefs right now.
That's a good point, Bill Jones. I never really thought about that. And probably at the time, I was a little young, but you would know. People were like, oh, Aikman might win 4. He might win 5.
Yeah.
He might win all,
Who
just
knows
like
what?
that. And
Yeah.
people said the same thing about Brady. And then he went 10 years without winning at all. And then, like you said, then they finally got back on track in there. So is Mahomes going to go more the Aikman way or more the Brady way, where he ends up having the most Super Bowls of all time?
Yep. So it's going to be interesting going forward on that. The other thing we should mention is what Steve Spagnuolo did with that Chiefs defense and the right calls at the right time in 3rd down situations, including the play in overtime that forced the field goal. And I think you can't say enough about not only him, but also the makeup of the players, what Kansas City has put together on their defense with what I think is, if not the youngest, you probably have it from your NFL Network book there, the youngest defensive starters in the league.
That's exactly right. It's in my notes. The Chiefs have the youngest defense in the league this season, and I think that's why the future is way, way brighter than people realize in Kansas City. You have Mahomes, you have Reid, we know they're the keys. But if they have an elite defense, which they did this year, and people didn't really realize it until the end, they're going to be really hard to stop. Listen to these numbers, Bill Jones. I got some ages on these guys. They only, first of all, gave up just about 15 points per game in the playoffs, which is amazing when you're playing the Bills and the Ravens and the 49ers, all these high-powered teams. But listen to these guys who either were starters or started a lot of games that are 27 years old or younger. George Karlaftis, 22. Mike Dana, 26. Nick Bolton, 23. Willie Gay, 25. Leo Chenal, 23. Trent McDuffie, 22. L'Jarius Sneed, 27. And we do have to keep an eye on Sneed and Chris Jones because they are both free agents. But I have a feeling they're going to keep at least one, if not both of those guys. And the other thing is Kansas City's done such a great job with Brent Veach drafting, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where if they lose L'Jarius Sneed, that would be a big loss. But they already have McDuffie. They could add somebody a late round or a cheap veteran corner that would take a spot for a year until they find a good young corner. So that's why Kansas City is going to win multiple more Super Bowls. It's their ability to draft on defense on top of having Mahomes and Reid.
So if they're keeping one of those guys, you're in favor of keeping Chris Jones.
100%. He is a monster. I actually was talking with James Palmer, NFL Network, at Chiefs at Bills, and he said he was talking to an NFL personnel guy, and the personnel guy told JP, I don't think people realize how good Chris Jones is. He's basically Micah Parsons, except he's about 30 or 40 pounds heavier. He plays all up and down the line, complete disrupts everything. And so Jones is one of the 5 best defensive players in the league, easily.
Yep, I agree with that. And I can't believe he was a second-round draft pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good find.
Good find in that big green notebook once
Yeah,
upon a time.
exactly.
All right, I want to get into. I wonder. I can't remember what was our guarantee in the Super Bowl.
We both missed our guarantees, Bill Jones. I had Deebo Samuel scoring a touchdown. That kind of went out the window when he got hurt a little bit there. But you had George Kittle. He got hurt as well. He left the game. So we both missed our guarantees, which means you won the season series.
I love you hearing you say that.
Yeah. 7-5. Congratulations, Bill Jones. We'll see if we workshop that. Maybe we adjust a little bit next year to see
figure out a way for you to win.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We tweak it a little bit so it more favors me and winning this year. But Bill Jones, this does set up a good opportunity to recap our 2023 preseason predictions. I
don't know that I want to see this.
I have the breakdown, and here it is. I'm going to start with you. Okay, we'll do playoff teams first, and then we'll do award winners because we made predictions on them all. All right. I'll start with you in the NFC. Bill Jones, you look very distraught there. You look like you're really nervous about this. You picked 4 of the 7 playoff teams in the NFC. You picked Dallas, Detroit, San Francisco, and Philly. You hit all those. You missed on Tampa, the Rams, and Green Bay. So 4 of 7.
I did not pick Baker.
Yeah. You did not. You actually had Carolina. You had Seattle and
Carolina. Carolina.
Yeah, tell me about it. That was a bad pick, Bill Jones, just so you know.
Who else did I pick? Who else?
You had Seattle and New Orleans were your other ones that you missed on.
Okay.
Not bad. All right. To the AFC we go, and you picked 3 of the 7 AFC playoff teams. So you got Buffalo, Kansas City, and Pittsburgh correct. You missed Baltimore, Houston, Cleveland, Miami. You instead went with Cincinnati, which makes sense. Bro got hurt. Jacksonville, who I think everybody picked Jacksonville, so everybody missed that one. The Chargers you had, and you had the New England Patriots squeezing into the playoffs. So I don't know which pick was worse, the Panthers or the Patriots. My guess is probably the Patriots.
Well, we all know the Patriots was shtick. That's what all that was.
Okay. Bill Jones and Bill Belichick. 2 peas in a pod. And then you did have the 49ers in the Super Bowl. So you get some
against
points
Buffalo?
Against Buffalo, yeah. You had 49ers over Bills. So you picked 7 of the 14 playoff teams, and you had 1 of the 2 Super Bowl participants. Not bad.
It was 500 season.
Right about 500.
I went 8.5 and 8.5 on the year.
You're right about it. Right about 500. All right. I picked 5 of the 7 NFC teams. So 1 more than you. I had Dallas, Philly, Detroit, Green Bay, and San Francisco. I had Green Bay. That was my sleeper pick right there.
Wow.
And so I nailed the Packers. I also had the Saints and the Seahawks, same as you, and both of those obviously missed. In the AFC, we finished with the exact same amount, 3 of 7 in the AFC. And so I also I had Kansas City, Buffalo, and I had Cleveland. Remember, you went Pittsburgh, I went Cleveland to make the playoffs. We both ended up being right, which is incredible considering neither won the division. I missed on the Jets. I remember I was high on the Jets.
Lost that on the 4th play of the season.
Yeah, the Jets, the Bengals, the Jags, and the Chargers. And so 2 of those were quarterback injuries.
I think we picked it better than it turned out.
Probably.
You know,
it would have been better had
it. We picked better teams. We picked better teams than the ones that made the playoffs, right?
Well, true, because again, the quarterback injuries, if once those happen, it's like, oh dang, then you got to squeeze in like a Pittsburgh who didn't even really deserve to be there for the most part. Anyway, so I got 8 of the 14 playoff teams. I also had the Niners in the Super Bowl, so I had one of those 2 participants, and I actually had the Niners losing in the Super Bowl. So I think I do get the edge on the picks, Bill Jones. As far as the awards, Offensive Rookie of the Year was won by C.J. Stroud. Neither one of us got it right. I had Jahmyr Gibbs for the Lions. He finished 4th in the Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I know who I had.
I'm assuming
if I picked Carolina to win the division, I picked Bryce Young.
you picked Bryce Young. That's right. 11 touchdowns, 10 picks for Bryce this year. Any hesitation there? Any worry about Bryce going forward from you?
Well, if they hadn't have fired their coach 5 games into the season, I might have been successful there.
That didn't help. That's for sure. So neither one of us hit on Offensive Rookie of the Year. Defensive Rookie of the Year was won by Will Anderson of the Texans. I had Jack Campbell of the Lions, who actually had a good year, finished 2nd on the team in tackles.
Yeah, but he's not going to play in that position. He's not going to rack up enough stats to win that award, right?
I thought he was going to have about 140 tackles, and he ended with, I think, 95. So good player, but not even, he didn't even get
inside linebackers rarely going to have enough stats.
That's fair. You had Emmanuel Forbes, Bill Jones.
That was a horrible pick.
Which one was worse, Bryce or Emmanuel?
Oh man, no doubt, mine was the worst pick possible.
Yeah.
And the reason I picked him was because he had so many picks in college, but he's so string bean. I don't know. I didn't even like him coming in my big green notebook. I didn't even like him, and I picked him to be Defensive Rookie of the Year. That's where I got swayed by training camp talk.
True. He did have 1 pick this season. He had a 103 passer rating against. I went back and looked that up.
They had to take him off the field, and it was a disaster.
Yeah, he only started 6 of the 14 games.
See, but Dan Quinn will turn him around. You watch, he'll have about 9 picks for Dan Quinn.
He'll be like DeRon Bland 2.0
next right.
year.
Don't you know Dan Quinn went into that meeting with Washington and say, look at my corners. See that first-round draft pick you had last year?
I'll turn him into something.
If I can turn a 5th rounder, DeRon Bland, into a 9-pick guy with all those pick sixes, I can certainly do it with Emmanuel Forbes.
Yep.
Comeback player of the year, Emmanuel Forbes.
True, exactly. You should get your wager in early. You can probably get good odds. All right, defensive player of the year, and ding, 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 ding. I actually nailed this one. I had Myles Garrett to win defensive player of the year, which he did. 2nd was TJ Watt. And 3rd was your guy, Micah Parsons. 14 sacks for Micah. He was the favorite for most of the year. It was just those 2.5 sacks over the last 7 games from Micah that I think he finally fell off.
How many sacks did Myles have?
I think he finished with like 15
14.
or 16. Yeah.
I think it was the same as Micah.
Yeah, they were right about the same amount.
Yeah. And in fact, if you took Myles Garrett's stats and line them up next to Micah's stats, they're almost identical for the season. There's a big difference. Go ahead.
Well, I also think that Myles won partially as a team award because the Browns finished with the #1 defense in the league, and by far they were terrific this year, and by far the biggest reason that the Browns made the playoffs.
Yeah.
All right, MVP obviously won by Lamar Jackson. I had Joe Burrow. He got knocked out after 10 games with the wrist injury, and truthfully, he wasn't playing very well anyway, so that was a terrible pick. You had Josh Allen of the Bills. He finished 5th in the voting, 29 pass touchdowns. Did you know Josh Allen had 15 rushing touchdowns? That's amazing.
How many Lamar Jackson have?
I don't know, Bill Jones. You keep asking me these stat questions like I need to look these up. Or you have the internet in front of you, I think. But he did have 22 giveaways. That was the key for Josh Allen. Had he not had those 22 giveaways, he might have actually finished 2nd.
And he finished strong.
He did.
Because they had to finish strong just to get in.
Yep. He had the 2nd most giveaways, 22 in the league. And
But
Dak
it was,
finished second in the league. We talked about this about 6 weeks ago that Dak was going to get some MVP votes, and not only did he get votes, he got second place in that MVP. That was pretty cool.
okay. So Lamar Jackson had 24 touchdown passes.
Yep,
And how many did Josh Allen have?
29.
Okay. And touchdown rushes, 5 for Lamar Jackson.
15 for Josh Allen.
So total touchdowns, Josh Allen had 44.
Yep.
And Lamar Jackson had 5 plus, how many did I say? 24, 29.
Yep.
Josh Allen had 15 more touchdowns accounted for than Lamar Jackson.
I told you this about Dak Prescott like 6 weeks ago. I said that Dak's numbers are better than Lamar, and he deserved more of an MVP.
But I didn't pick Dak Prescott to be MVP. I picked Josh Allen. And he had 15 more touchdowns accounted for than the guy that won the MVP. Now he had 15 more interceptions too. So
probably had 15 more giveaways. You're exactly right.
He did. He had 20. He said, how many? He had 19, but not
22 giveaways for Josh Allen.
And Lamar had 7 picks.
Exactly.
So, okay.
All right. So I won the season predictions. I also won the awards. For those of you keeping count at home, I know Babe is charting this on his elliptical, so I want to give a recap. All right. One thing I do want to do before we wrap it up, Bill Jones. We do a ton of episodes. We did about 40 episodes of Jonesing for Football back in season 4. We do a lot of studying. We do a lot of predictions. I think most of them are good. Some of them are bad. You know, like the Patriots.
We've proven in this.
Like the Patriots making the playoffs. Who saw that coming? But I do want to give you a second, Bill Jones. Let's give a good prediction, our best prediction of the year, and then we'll give our worst prediction of the year. Do you have somewhere you'd like to go, or I can start if you want to?
You start. I don't know where you're going with this.
Okay. I called it in the offseason that the Lions rookies were stars. On our NFL draft recap pod back on May 3rd, I said I loved the Lions selections, which was actually the opposite of most, in quotes here, experts. Remember, they took Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell in the first round. Then they picked Sam Laporta and Brian Branch in the second round. And all of them were home runs. Those Twitter scouts, the ones that I love to mock, they said, who drafts a running back and a linebacker in the first round? My reply was, have you seen Gibbs and Campbell play? It took about a month for Jahmyr Gibbs, and then everyone realized, holy heck, this dude is dynamic. He finished with about 1,200 scrimmage yards and 11 touchdowns while splitting snaps with David Montgomery. As I mentioned, Campbell finished second on the team with 95 tackles. Laporta finished with nearly 900 receiving yards, which was 5th most among all tight ends. And Brian Branch is the definition of a stat sheet stuffer. 74 tackles, 13 passes defense, 9 tackles for loss, 3 picks, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble. That dude does it all. Laporta and Gibbs both finished top 4 in offensive rookie of the year voting. Branch finished 7th in defensive rookie of the year voting. And these 4 guys are a huge reason why the Lions went from missing the playoffs to being just 1 half away from making the Super Bowl. So I told you back in May, the Lions added stars, and that is exactly what happened.
I like that. I don't think I hit on any of my picks, and so I got nothing.
I do have some honorable mentions. Maybe you
Okay.
can claim some of these. A couple honorable mentions that I thought about giving for my best pick of the year. I said before the season that Shane Steichen was a genius. That I think everyone realizes that that's probably the case after they went 9-8 with Gardner Minshew at quarterback. I had CJ Stroud over Bryce Young.
Yeah.
I think that ends up being right.
You don't get credit for that because he's an Ohio State guy, and so.
Hey, I got lucky with that one. That just so happens. And the other thing was, I said the Patriots would be horrible. and I said 6 wins. I was rounding up, Bill Jones, and they finished 4-13, worst record in the AFC. So those are my honorable mention on.
Did you predict Bill Belichick would be out?
I don't recall doing that, but if at I said they would go 6-11, I think, and so you kind of added up, and it felt like that was going to be the case had that happened. So you don't have a good prediction, Bill Jones?
I don't recall one. I don't recall one at all.
Okay.
You know, bringing it back home to Dallas here, I wasn't on the Mozzie Smith draft pick. I thought they're reaching their. I mean, they're reaching on a position of need. I
Yeah.
can't stand it when a team drafts for need instead of best player available. And I think, although without doing the research on it, I can't remember. Guys that I know you had. Well, okay, here's one for you. The guy that you thought the Cowboys should pick at that slot was the guy that went to Philadelphia, right? Nolan Smith.
Nolan Smith. I like Nolan Smith once he fell.
And what happened to him this year?
Well, he didn't see the field hardly at all. But they have.
Well, why was that? Neither did Mozzie Smith.
Well, where I would argue is the Eagles have a ton of defensive linemen, and we'll find out how good Nolan Smith is next year if Brandon Graham is gone, Hassan Reddick, who has requested trade, or maybe he hasn't. I don't really know. But if he's gone, that'll free up for Nolan Smith, and then we'll see if he's a good player or not. I actually thought he was disruptive when he played. He was only playing about 10 snaps a game. He was primarily a pass rush specialist.
Yeah. So, and with Mozzie, they had Jonathan Hankins, and you're only going to put one technique on the field for a couple of handful of plays.
Sure.
And so, which is another reason why you don't spend a first round draft pick on a player like that. So
well, he was supposed to shore up the rush defense. I think they were obviously hoping that he was going to be better than Hankins, and Hankins would be the sub, and that Mozzie.
And as it turned out, he wound up being about 25 as the season wore on. He was losing weight, and he was down to about 300 pounds instead of the 325 that they thought they were drafting. So
that's not good.
Yeah. So
for what they wanted.
He's more of a 3 technique than a 1 technique now.
Yeah, that's definitely not good. All right, Bill Jones, do you have a worst prediction you'd like to give, or do you want me to?
Well, clearly we've already talked about it. That was Emmanuel Forbes as the defensive rookie of the year.
I thought you were going to say the Panthers to win the division.
Well, no, there's another one.
That one actually had a chance because the NFC South was so kind of up in the air that you didn't really know who was good. No one thought the Bucs were going to win the division.
What I am kicking myself over is not having faith in Baker Mayfield. I could have knocked that out of the park.
He had played for like 3 teams in like 9 months, Bill Jones. There was a reason that you didn't have any faith.
Who, by the way, take DeMar Hamlin out of the equation, and I understand Joe Flacco won the comeback player. Baker Mayfield should have been the comeback player of the year.
Yeah, and he definitely got votes. I think he finished 3rd, if I'm not mistaken.
In some of these awards, I understand doing it on just regular season, but Baker Mayfield, the fact that they win a playoff game puts him over Joe Flacco as comeback player of the year. The Joe Flacco is just a great story. He was on his couch 1st of November, and he's in the playoffs, or he's winning. He's NFL honors. He's getting comeback player of the year award.
Yeah, leading the Browns to the playoffs, and the Browns had 5 starting quarterbacks.
Right.
And Flacco kind of shored up that.
They also had the #1 defense in the league. So
true. All right, I'll give you my worst prediction, and we'll stick in the NFC South there. I said the Saints were going to be really, really good. I believe I said 12 or 13 wins was possible. Well, they didn't get close. They finished 9-8, and I'm not sure how this adds up, Bill Jones. Derek Carr finished with a 98 passer rating. Pretty good. 10th best in the league, in fact. 25 touchdowns, 8 picks. New Orleans finished with the 8th best scoring defense in the whole league, 19 points per game. Yet somehow they let Baker and the Bucks win the division. So the quarterback played well, the defense played well, and they still didn't win the NFC South. I have no idea how all those things can add up. Plus, they were tied for third in turnover margin. They were plus 11 in turnover margin. No idea how the Saints didn't win that division.
Huh. It's very interesting. They fell victim, as you said, to Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting. Even though they beat Baker Mayfield in the second to last week of the season. I'm just sitting there looking at their. So
Well, I
maybe they
needed
didn't
that.
fall victim to Baker Mayfield.
I needed that because I believe if the Bucks would have won that game, they would have clinched the division the week before the final week of the season. And I ended up going to Carolina because the Bucks had a chance to clinch the South. Bucks at Panthers.
And I'm looking at it here. The Saints actually won 4 of their last 5 games.
That's
so
what I'm
you were
saying.
just a season early, perhaps, on them. They've built momentum for next year.
Oh, great. Yeah, trust me, I'm not going down that road again. No idea. They had the easiest schedule in the league.
That's
The easiest
because they
schedule in the
played.
league. Right. The easiest schedule in the league. The quarterback played well. The defense played well. And the third best turnover margin in the league. How do you not win the division? How? Impossible.
In that division.
In that
That's
division.
why this is the National Football League, and that's why there were an average through the course of the Super Bowl 123.4 million sets of eyeballs on that game, and if you include streaming on Paramount Plus and elsewhere, over 200 million people watching that game.
Incredible. It was great. It was fun. I can't wait for next year. But I am more excited about getting into draft coverage and getting this thing rolling because Bill Jones and I will start texting. We actually only text probably about 2 times, 3 times per month for like 9 months during the season. And then once draft season comes around, then it's like, hey, have you seen this guy? Hey, have you seen this guy? This guy's in the big
You'll
green
wake
notebook.
up some morning and I will have sent you a text at like 2:00 in the morning about Darnell Washington. This Georgia tight end, unbelievable.
Yeah, I know. I have to put my phone on silent at night because Bill Jones is writing in that
That's
big
when
green
I
notebook.
start studying my draft prospects.
Yeah,
So,
here we go. I'm ready for it.
all right. Well, what a season it was, and what a great season we have ahead for you as we get started, not only with the Big Green Notebook, but baseball spring training next week for me in Surprise, Arizona, and what surprises we will have in store for you in 2024. It's going to be fun.
I'm not ready for baseball season, but I am ready for draft season. So you go enjoy your baseball. I'm going to avoid that for as long as possible. I'm just going to lock in on football and a lot of late night studying. So check out my Twitter account because a lot of times I'll post a picture on who I'm studying. So I've already posted.
Okay.
I posted Caleb Williams Friday night. Saturday night while you were out partying, Bill Jones, with your family and friends, guess what I was doing? Watching Drake May video.
All right.
That's
I
how
can't
I
wait
do
on the next edition of Jonesing for Football. We'll dive into. Do you have a notebook?
No, I do everything on Google Docs. You know that.
Okay,
I'm
we'll
new school.
dive in. We'll dive in to Cody's Big Green Google Doc.
That actually has a nice sound. That rolls off the tongue very well. I don't want to say better than the Big Green NFL Draft Guy
You have to
notebook.
be, as Babe Offenberg falls off his elliptical, you have to be very careful when you say Cody's Big Green Google Doc.
That's true. That's true. That's not going to be a thing. That's not going to be a thing.
Okay. All right. And we will see you again next week on the next edition of Jonesing
For football. Call me, babe.